So by my definition, I am wealthy or rich. Now, my definition of wealth is a lot more different than the average person. And here it is. Wealthy rich is someone that makes more money passively than they need per month. Now, that basically means that the first time I heard the definition and I actually understood it, I was like, well, my goal is I need to have at least a $10,000 per month passive income stream. And I was like, that's normal, right? It's to pay for the cars, to pay for the house, to pay for all the things I actually want, the vacations and the luxuries and all this other stuff. But then I was like, well, that's gonna take decades and decades and a long, long time. And basically a lot of hard work. And then I said, you know, I like that definition. I just don't like the number I used. And then my goal became, how can I live on less that gives me maximum fulfillment of happiness in a sense, and then at the same time, make that much money in passive income so working is an option. And that's what I basically figured out. Now, my number is about $1,200 per month. That's the only amount of money I need to make passively to be considered rich by my standard. And in this video, I'm gonna share with you guys all the things I had to let go to actually be able to achieve that. And now do me a favor, guys, and actually smash the like button. Now, the very first thing, guys, I want to tell you guys is sorry if I sound weird. It's because I still have a cold in my chest and it hasn't gone away. I'm still trying to recover from it. But the very first thing I had to give up to actually achieve wealth by my definition is the $1 million mark. You know, the average person may hope to make at least like $2 to $3 million in a lifetime. And you always hear all the financial channels saying, hey, if you invest $5 a day or $10 a day in 30, 40 years, you're going to have $1 million. I hate that idea and I hate that concept because it also doesn't tell you it's going to take way too long, right? Do you want to retire in 30 years or 40 years, or would you rather retire in 10 years or 15 years, right? Obviously, you want to retire as fast as possible. So my number was this. Now, remember, I live here in Dominican Republic by choice. My family is here. I was born here. I like the area. I feel good here, okay? Now, my expenses here are about $1,200. My only investment is just into the S&P 500. Now, that basically means that in order for me to make that much money passively, I need to have invested somewhere around $1,200 a month, multiplied by 12, multiplied by, well, 25, somewhere around $360,000. Nowhere near $1 million, you see? So my goal is not, I'm gonna work harder and go crazy and do more investments and do more of this just so I can get to a number that maybe I just don't even need it in the first place, you know? That much money, $1 million, would generate for me maybe, for example, $50,000 to $40,000 every single year. And I don't need that much money. And to get to $1 million, it's not like it's going to be free. It's going to take me a lot of work to actually get to, you see? And the reason I gave up on it is because it's going to happen on its own. On its own, I'm going to get to that goal. But my primary goal is just getting to, I want this much money so I can make much, like my passive income goal every single month. Now, the second thing I had to actually give up on was basically luxury aspiration. Now, this basically shows in 3 areas, which is basically what you drive, where you live, and what you do for travel. Now, for me personally, again, I wanted to have a $500,000 house, a Porsche Cayenne, and I wanted to travel all the time because, hey, it's just what people do. Now, I gave up on this because I realized that these were not my ideas, you know, not at all. All these ideas was just great marketing from Instagram, from society, from people around me, which made me feel like the bigger your house is, the more successful you are. The nicer your car is, that talks about you. The where you travel, the pictures you post, that talks about you. And I was like, well, that's just so stupid. I actually don't care that much about those things. So here's an example of how much my life actually changed, which is basically when I got to Puerto Rico the first time, I bought a house instead of for $500,000, only for $130,000. I bought a car instead of $30,000, I paid $9,000 for a Toyota Prius. And instead of going traveling every single other month, No, I just spent money on traveling to come see my family over here in Dominican Republic, and I got maximum enjoyment from it. Now, does that mean I won't travel? The answer is no. I'll have planned travel, especially because my wife loves to travel and she likes the idea of like seeing new places and all that stuff. And I like seeing her happy, okay? So it's just planned travel. If we're gonna go somewhere, all right, where do we wanna go? How much money do we need? How much do we need to save? How often? And then that's how you actually get it done, okay? But that whole concept, I had to give it up, especially because it wasn't even my idea. And it's a lot more liberating when you're not doing things for other people. You're doing them because I actually like the home where I actually live. I actually like the car that I actually drive. It's reliable. It's nice. It's comfortable. But I don't need a BMW, a Mercedes, an Audi. Why do you care about those brands exactly? Like, when do you start caring about them exactly? You see what I mean? Now, the third thing I had to give up on was basically working for money. And I just recently gave this up because I just read a book called Your Money or Your Life. It's a great book. But the whole concept is we always think that work has to equal money. But work is something that gives you fulfillment and purpose. And it does not have to pay you money. So if you like writing books, if you like raising animals, if you want to spend time with your children, your wife, your church, or just preaching, doing whatever you want to do, that's also a form of work. And we always tend to feel like if I'm not working and my work is not producing me any money, then it's not work and it's not productive. And that's just not true. What you actually have is people working for wages. And in a way, it's like, okay, that's good. But again, you're working for wages. It doesn't mean that the dad or the mom that stays at home with their kids, guess what? They're also working and they're also doing something. And the man that's just playing chess, he's working on a skill and he actually likes that. It's purposeful and it gives him fulfillment, and that's more than enough. And not all your work has to be involved making money. And one of the biggest ideas that I take away from this is basically money's not free. Money is not free in the sense that when you actually trade your time for money, you're trading your time, which you'll never get back, for paper. So when people are so worried about amassing a bunch of money that they basically don't need, it's not like it's free, right? You're trading the time you do need to get something you don't need, which is more money. So I want to have enough money and a little surplus so I can basically be safe in a way, but I don't want to have billions and hundreds of millions of dollars if I don't need it. What for? You know what I mean? So it won't make me any more happy, and the time it'll cost me will definitely not make me happy. Now, the fourth thing I had to give up on was basically leverage. Now, leverage for me, at its core, as I look back at it, because back then it was just basically, well, leverage is great. It's using other people's money. It's an opportunity. Take advantage of it. You grow more money and you make more money, right? That's the whole idea. But to me today, looking back at myself back then, I realized that when I was using leverage, I was just basically being impatient. I wanted to have what I wanted right then and there. I wanted to get wealthy. I wanted to get rich as fast as possible. So I was willing to take on a lot of risk, borrow a lot of money to make more money. Now, by the way, today I don't have any debts. I don't have any credit cards. I try not to have and borrow any money whatsoever. And people always hear that and they might say, well, you must have done something wrong or you're afraid of debts. The answer is no. My character, I have an inclination to take risks. I have an inclination to calculate. I have an inclination to make more money in a sense, right? And when I was basically dealing with that, I never really made a bad mistake. It always just went well. And I am the type of person where I try to do this sometimes, although sometimes I do make mistakes, but I try to learn from other people's mistakes. So when I see people like Dave Ramsey, people around me that make mistakes with debt, and their mistakes are basically, hey, you're wiped out, you're cleared. The answer is, although it's going well for me, I don't want to keep playing a game that if I lose, it's game over. So for me, it was like, no, I'm not gonna play this game because the price is too high. At least for me, it was. Now, number 5, and the last thing I gave up on to become wealthy in a sense, is people pleasing. I stopped this, and also listening to advice. Here's the thing, right? When you read a lot of books and you hear a lot of advice from people that actually are successful, you come to have a lot of confidence in them. And in some areas of life, basically more like finance and money, they're right. But in other areas, they might not be right. And then also people in your life, in other areas, they might want to give you advice. You know, live here, buy this, invest in this. And if you listen to them, You might make a lot of mistakes, and there's no mistake worse than a mistake that was influenced by somebody else because you don't feel like it's your responsibility, but it is because you listened, right? So I try to hear people, ignore most of what they say, and ignore most of the advice I basically get. And when I do get good advice, I try to listen, okay? Because one thing about my personality is I can be very impulsive. I can make massive decisions that could lead me in really bad ways, okay? So I like pausing, I like taking my time, and I like making my own decision and my own choices. Influenced also by other people, okay? But you want to be very careful. For example, okay, you have a person gives them advice. You should buy an apartment and you should buy a house or whatever. And you go ahead and you buy that house, you buy that apartment, and now you're stuck with a bunch of debt and you're stuck with dirty tenants or whatever, right? And now you're like, well, why did I get into this business? Because somebody else gave you advice, okay? Somebody tells you don't buy a house or buy a house, and you buy the house, and now you're like, I didn't even need a house. What do I have a house for? Or I tell you, buy a new car because new cars are better than used cars. Now you have a new car, you have a crazy car payment. Guess what? People don't pay your bills. They won't give you any money. And in reality, when you make mistakes, they'll probably tell you, why do you make that mistake? Okay, because they won't take any responsibility for it whatsoever. So those are the things, the 5 things I had to give up on in order to actually become financially free and financially independent. So remember that, okay? I am not a millionaire whatsoever. I am not wealthy by the standard definition of markets out there and what people basically say, but I am financially free, financially independent, rich and wealthy in my definition, which is basically I make more than $1,200 every single month in passive income. And to me, that makes me pretty good because if I want to work, I work. If I don't want to work for money, I don't work for money. That's it. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified. I'll see you guys next time. And as always, long-term team.